Hi, I'm Kimberly Butler. Welcome to my vlog. Well, hooray for Hollywood, the medium as entertainment. Let's start off and speak to Stephen Cannell.
You have fewer people, you have fewer ideas. You have fewer and fewer ideas that are getting on the air because you are being asked to put them through one person's brain. And that one person has their own prejudices about what they think is good and bad, and that's not wrong. I certainly have those too. But the fact of this situation is that it allows these people to stifle everything else and only put on the kinds of things that appeal to them. So that's one of the reasons that I think you're seeing less innovative programming coming out of the Hollywood megastructures.
There's a certain kind of storyline that gets repeated more and more and more through different kinds of films, tentpole movies particularly. You know, man is going to wreck the planet, but then somebody's going to save us. You know, it's all these little kind of short little anecdotes that get repeated over and over again that have very little to do with truth, but become part of what is calming about entertainment. Reality and documentaries have become huge, and you know, there's lots of inroads that used to be in the realm of, you know, art house movies, documentaries. You'd see art documentaries and then occasionally on PBS or something, and now, you know, they're creeping up and morphing into a lot of different kinds of entertaining things, so that, you know, you've got this great hybridization with somebody like Borat.
Hey, Borat!
He's like a direct descendant of Michael Moore's, you know, different kinds of fabrications and simulations. And then you have reality television, you know, where things are supposed to be happening real, and it's been more art directed and more story pointed than you really are, you know, than you're led to believe.
I think that film as a medium is hopeless at communicating ideas, and I don't think film should really be used for communicating ideas. And that's I've made loads of documentaries. I come from a world of documentaries, and you know, in documentaries we try to tackle interesting cerebral subjects, possibly even. But actually, how much can you really say in a 90-minute documentary that you couldn't put in 3 pages of newsprint? You can't. Documentaries, like fiction films, are great at emotion. And that's what film is. And that's why film is the great propagandistic medium. That's what Lenin realized. That's what Stalin realized. That's what Fidel realized. That's why they all funded these huge film departments. TV is the bastard child of that.
Television tends to be fairly directed at fairly specific demographic groups. You know, we've divided our television up into networks. We have Lifetime, we have Spike. They're hitting completely different target areas. Now, because these are targeted to very specific groups, and advertisers are being sold now based on those groups, they tend to make economic sense, and so it allows different kinds of programming that wouldn't have been on the air 25 years ago, to its detriment in that a lot of markets aren't being served, like 50-plus markets are not being served. Madison Avenue doesn't much care about 50-plus because they don't believe that those people are going to be alive long enough to invest the money per minute in trying to turn them into buyers.
When I was growing up, and you know, that families stayed at home and turned on the television to watch something as a family. And they would watch Leave It to Beaver or Perry Mason, and that was the family experience. And then if they wanted to do something a little bit more individualized and a little more difficult and a little more challenging to a narrower sector, they'd go to the movies and see challenging movies, you know, Raging Bull or European films or something like that. Recently, that modality has shifted 180 degrees. Now, people go to movies, families go to movies, see tentpole movies, action movies or cartoons or animated movies, to having a family experience, and then they stay at home to watch these cable multiplying series of all kinds and be able to tune into a real narrower perspective.
The 50s were very much about morality plays, right? The Western was nothing but a morality play. You had Jack Palance in a black hat shooting your dog in the saloon, and you had Alan Ladd in a white hat coming in, and it was all about good versus evil and everything. And then we got into more complicated times. The Vietnam War was a complicated time in our history. We didn't know whether we were the good guys or the bad guys. We didn't know whether we belonged in that war. There was a lot of social unrest that surrounded it. And the result of that was that the gray hero began to emerge. People started to get very fascinated with these complex, morally complicated characters. And then that led us into situations where you now have Dexter. The guy's a serial killer. You have people who you would never invite home.
I was interested in making a film which was about what's going on in the media, particularly what's going on in newspapers in America and around the world. And I thought, well, I'll have a character played by Russell Crowe who is representative of the kind of print media dinosaur that we all know. Somebody who has grown up in the 70s and the 80s, grown up with Watergate as his great shining grail of what is also fantastic about being a print journalist. And on the other hand, I'd have somebody who represents new media, somebody who represents the blogging.
Del Fry. I write the Apple Hill blog, online site.
A kind of journalism which is about opinion, reciting that opinion, that bit of gossip that you've heard, and adding your own opinion.
I don't know. I'd have to read a couple of blogs before I could form an opinion.
Blogs are not the same thing as journalism. They're not the same thing as reporting. And it's fine to have the Huffington Post, and it's fine to have blogs like this that I'm on at the moment, but they don't take the place of reporting.
I don't read a lot of blogs. I think it's valid, if you can find the right ones talking about the right things at the right times. It's a great way to see an opinion that has kind of a certain kind of flair, that you wouldn't maybe see if it has had to go through a corporate filter of a newscast or something else. It doesn't always have to be true, and sometimes it's not about truth. You're looking for style.
I tried to make the world of journalism that I showed in City Play as accurate as possible. I tried to show what it was really like to be a journalist. I don't think that is reflected in necessarily every twist and turn of the plot. I think there are a couple of things which my journalistic advisor, who was an editor at the Washington Post, who still is an editor at the Washington Post, there were a couple of things that he was uneasy with all the way through. And said, that a journalist would never do that. And I said, well, unfortunately, those things we need to have because we need them for the plot. But in general, what I try to do is to create the texture, the ambience of what it's like to work in a newspaper, and for that to be a very analog kind of world and a decaying, fading. The idea that these institutions exist so much just on paper, that there are paper cultures still, which are all about reading books, printing out stuff, and then of course printing the newspaper at the end of every day, like printing a book every day and sending it out on these huge trucks. It seems so outmoded, so outdated.
Thanks for watching. Join us next time we talk about the trivialization of the media.